Whenever you're ready, lads.
Yeah, so Newcastle have just been held here by Barca. It looked like it was going to be a memorable night. Harvey Barnes scoring with 4 minutes left. And it looked like Newcastle were going to have something to hold on to going over to the Nou Camp next week. And then, obviously, the last gasp penalty incident. Malik Chow upending Olmo in the box. And I mean, Yamali been quiet all night, hadn't he? And he steps up and slots home an unbelievable penalty, to be fair. But yeah, it's probably ended in really gut-wrenching fashion.
Yeah, and you probably heard when Lee was speaking there, the Barcelona fans that are still inside the stadium going absolutely nuts. And I think you saw the reaction of their bench as well. That spoke volumes of, they know they've got away with one tonight. I think Newcastle were the better team throughout. They played with the intensity that was matched by the crowd. It's one of the best atmospheres this season, probably the best atmosphere since they played them here last time, wasn't it? And you think of how loud it was that night, and it was loud again tonight, and it just feels tough at the moment. But I think Newcastle can take heartily from the fact that they hurt Barcelona on a lot of occasions. Anthony Elanga, particularly on the right hand side, got a lot of joy. The high line Barcelona played, the pace in Newcastle's front line was really hurting them, and obviously Barcelona will be favourites next week going back over the Camp Nou, but Newcastle showed tonight that they can hurt them. If they can be a bit more clinical in forward areas, who knows, it could be a famous night in Catalonia.
Yeah, it could. I mean, the game's not dead. I mean, you see some of the results around Europe tonight, and this is the game that is wide open, but it's going to Nou Camp. And I always said before the game that Newcastle, they needed some kind of advantage. I said 2-0 would have been a great scoreline for Newcastle. I said to you when it was 0-0, if they do go 1-0 up here, what did he do? At 1-0, I think they tried to see it out, to be totally honest with you, but they've just been caught with a late sucker punch. I'm not too critical on the players. I know there could be things said about it, but this is Barcelona. This is the highest level you can get. You know, for Newcastle now, they know that this second leg, it's going to be tough, but they're not out of it. I mean, if they get an early lead over there and they have something to hold on to again, we'll see what happens. But this Barcelona team, they just have that control, don't they? And while they were 1-0 down, they never kind of took their eye off the ball, did they?
No, and I mean that's why they are such a high-level team who have won Champions Leagues on numerous occasions. They're the champions of Spain for a reason, and it was a high-level game. It was to a clash of styles, really, wasn't it? It was the same in the first game. Barcelona keep the ball really, really well. Their midfield, the technical quality is absolutely brilliant. Obviously, they had Lamine Yamal tonight, who showed in fits and starts what he can do. I think he'll be much more of a threat next week at the Camp Nou. And Lewis Hall did really well. I thought he adapted it in games. I think he had a couple of shaky moments against some early doors, but then really, really stood up to the test against probably the best winger in world football. And yeah, it just feels tough right now to sort of shake the disappointment, I think. But I think when you reflect on it in the morning, when you sleep on it, Newcastle played really well tonight. They're still up to one of the best teams in Europe, arguably the better team of the night. If they were a bit more clinical, they'd probably win the game. Almost did win the game for that last minute, that literally the last kick of the game from Lamine Yamal. And yeah, but I think they can take so much heart from it. I think if you look back at the PSG performance, obviously you were in Paris that night, and Newcastle were brilliant, weren't they, away from home, and it's a similar test they're going to have against Barcelona. Barcelona want the favourites to win the competition. They're going to have to be that good at least to match that sort of level performance to get a similar sort of result out there. But they'll have the belief now, and Newcastle have been inconsistent this season. That's twice now against Barcelona where they've more than matched them. They haven't got the win yet. Hopefully, it's the old adage, it's third time lucky. But yeah, I mean, going into that game, Lee, is anything you would change? I think they probably saw the temper tonight of how you can hit Barcelona.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Gordon will probably be ready to start that game. I would be pretty confident on that. You know, the first hour for me, I know people are saying Elanga did well. For me, the telepathy wasn't really there between Asula and Elanga. At one point, I think we were having a little bit of a quarrel almost, and Asula was basically saying, get your head up, basically. And for me, there was moments where things could have been better. You know, the service in the box. Newcastle had plenty of openings, they just couldn't take them. Asula missed a couple of good chances. Had this game finished 0-0, I think would have been kicking ourselves. And had it finished that way, it's ended up being 1-1, and the circumstances changed right at the death. So had it been 1-0, I think we'd all be buzzing tonight. I think we'd all be going down to the city centre for a celebratory drink. But it is only half time, and we've got to remember that Newcastle are still very much in this tie. As you say, belief, confidence, they've got to take that over the new camp.
How difficult do you think it's going to be to match the intensity that they showed tonight? Because I think obviously the pre-match messaging yesterday from Eddie Howe was pretty bullish in the press conference, wasn't he? He said on Saturday after the defeat of Man City that it was the biggest game in the club's history. That raised a few eyebrows, of course, because it's still less than a year since they won the cup, the Carabao Cup, under Eddie Howe. But you can kind of understand what he was trying to do. He was trying to sort of adopt that siege mentality, and I think you saw that with the players. There was all sort of backed up that messaging afterwards in the press conference. I saw a few social media posts from players today, and I think you saw that on the pitch. Now, obviously, it's resulted in what it's resulted in, a positive performance, but ultimately a draw in heartbreaking fashion. How difficult is it going to be, do you think, for them to match that again next week? Obviously, there's a Chelsea game in between, which how that goes could really affect it as well. But I think that's probably going to be the fear. It's the positive because we know that we're here at them, but it's also the fear, can they actually replicate that again in such quick succession?
Yeah, I mean that is going to be the challenge, and you've got obviously Chelsea sandwiched in the middle of that, so it's going to be tough. For me, Eddie Howe will make some tweaks to his team, but I think really Newcastle, they'll go over there. They know they're going to be up against it. They've got nothing to lose now, absolutely nothing to lose. Let's hope they can go there and do something. It's not exactly miracle stuff, is it? Because it's still very level, it's still very open, but it's going to be remarkably tough. And I think Lamine Yamal will be another big threat. Rafinha as well at home. There's now going to be 62,000 at that game after the ticket decision today. So yeah, it's going to be tough, but we take a little bit of encouragement from it all tonight, I think.
Definitely. Well, I think as we've said on numerous occasions this season, Lee, those kind of nights next week are what you want Newcastle to competing consistently. Looking at the league table, Champions League football, unless they win the competition, of course, isn't going to come here next season. So it almost feels like it's there, it's primed for a sort of do or die game, and hopefully Newcastle leave it all on the pitch and come away with a positive result, and then we can go from there. But as always, we'll have coverage of that next week. We'll have coverage of all reaction to this in the next 24 hours. We're going to be speaking to Eddie Howe soon, of course. We'll probably speak with a player on the mix zone as well. So stick with us on Chronicle Live. We'll bring it all to you as usual. And thanks again for joining us. And hopefully next week will be a bit more positive. But I think the hope's there and the optimism remains.